In the news this week, inquiry into City of Melville not as damning as complaints piled up.
Right to die, voluntary assisted dying laws in the works after recommendations tabled in Parliament.
WA police are hunting 2 men following 2 armed holdups at Craigie and Balladura.
And blessing for the children as the Premier opens a new Telethon Kids Institute Discovery Centre.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Lung and Danielle Staniskov.
Good evening. An inquiry into the City of Melville has concluded and the Department of Local Government released a report detailing findings and recommendations. Mayor Russell Aubrey said they have always been compliant and will continue to work in conjunction with the Minister and Department. Taylor Hannah has more.
With over 300 complaints made against the City of Melville and only 17 findings and 7 recommendations to come out of the inquiry, Russell Aubrey says incessant, unreasonable complainers need to be stopped.
The question is now, what is the Minister and what is the Department of Local Government going to do to stop these continued complaints? Because they are continuing. Even today we're getting similar complaints from the same people.
Mr Aubrey commented that over 50% of the complaints were brought to Local Government Minister David Templeman by only 2 or 3 people.
Over 300 complaints submitted and only 5 of the findings, maximum 5 of the findings, are negative to the city. So we do have a high-performing, very resilient local government.
The City of Melville Ratepayers and Residents Association have not responded to interview requests.
Originally, it was brought, the inquiry was called in order to look at the veracity of the over 300 complaints which were brought against the city, and clearly with that few number of findings, we could say that probably 300 of them were unwarranted for one reason or another.
Minister Templeman said the recommendations need to drive a cultural change within the city, with a particular focus on improving management processes. The City of Melville has 35 days to make a response about the report and then 3 months to show their compliance, just in time to prove themselves worthy before the next council election in October. Taylor Hannah, WAMN News.
Western Australians in pain at the end of their life will soon have voluntary euthanasia as an option after an expert panel handed down findings for new laws. The report has outlined strict guidelines for a safe approach, but doctors in WA remain unconvinced. Nelson Liu reports.
It's designed to stop people in pain, suffering at the end of their life, and now it's about to become a real option in WA.
Today brings us a vital step closer to developing progressive legislation that is compassionate and which is safe.
A report tabled in Parliament has proposed bringing voluntary assisted dying to the state, with 31 recommendations to support the move. There are strict safeguards, including age limits, residential and eligible condition requirements, and reasonably foreseeable death within 12 months.
It's not about their death, it's about the manner of that death and their choosing.
But the medical community has opposed it, claiming it's riskier than Victoria's laws introduced last week.
We need to protect the vulnerable in society if we're going to move down this path.
While voluntary assisted dying could become an option for people who need it most, it won't be one for young people under the age of 18. Doctors support the restrictions, stating it could be accessed too easily.
What that says is that those people are worthless in our society because it's reasonable to access assisted dying in order to address those conditions.
Laws are expected to be introduced in August. Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
The new Telethon Institute Discovery Centre at Perth Children's Hospital is a fun and interactive space for children to learn about science and health. A Lottery West grant of $1.5 million funded the creative exhibition space, including 6 digital interactives and over 25 different games. Telethon Kids Institute Director Jonathan Carpenters says it's taken very complex science and turning into something kids can appreciate and enjoy.
To celebrate the fact that there is incredible research as well as the clinical care that happens in this hospital, and to do it in a way that's fun, that engages kids, that hopefully gets kids interested in science, and that reassures parents that they are bringing their kids to one of the world's great teaching hospitals. Thus, the Discovery Centre was born.
2 armed holdups in Perth's northern suburbs last weekend have left WA police hunting for 2 men involved. The first incident occurred at a bakery on Eddystone Avenue in Craigie at around 5:10 a.m. when 2 men entered the store with a hammer and a knife. The men threatened a staff member who confronted them before leaving with a sum of cash. A second robbery occurred at around 5:30 a.m. at a service station near the corner of Alexander Drive and Illawarra Crescent in Balladura, where the men approached the front counter, stole a sum of cash and a staff member's handbag. Anyone with information about the incident is asked to contact Crime Stoppers.
As the G20 summit is wrapping up, activists are disappointed that nothing was brought up about recent Hong Kong issues and protests. Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced earlier he will not be mentioning Hong Kong to China during the summit, leaving activists like Sinead Ni frustrated. Recently, Hong Kong protesters held a fundraiser in an attempt to gain more international awareness for the issue by publishing advertisements in newspapers around the world.
Right before the rally starts, he just said that he's not going to mention about it. We know it's a really sensitive topic to be discussed during the G20 meeting, but we also believe, if not now, when. So we really want to raise more international awareness.
US President Donald Trump met with China President Xi Jinping during the G20 summit to discuss trade war issues between both superpowers. Before the meeting, Mr. Trump expressed that he's positive about the meeting with Mr. Xi. On Friday, Mr. Trump also met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He emphasized that he has a very, very good relationship and it was an honor to meet with Mr. Putin. Special Counsel Robert Mueller will testify in July this year regarding his report into Russian interference during the 2016 presidential election. The hearing will be an open session according to the chairman of Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Earlier this year, Mr. Mueller concluded there wasn't enough evidence to prove criminal conspiracy against US President Donald Trump.
The next adventure for a new NASA spacecraft called Dragonfly will be a trip to Saturn's largest moon, Titan. Launching in 2026, the journey to Titan will take 8 years. Drone-like explorations of the moon's surface will investigate habitability and signs of past or present lives. The Dragonfly will become the second long-term spacecraft to surround Saturn after the Cassini-Huygens spacecraft completed its 20 years odyssey back in 2017.
And that's our news for this week. We have the latest on our website and Facebook page.
From Daniel, myself and the rest of the team until 8 o'clock next Sunday, a very good evening to you.
Good night.